Closure is a myth. There's something comforting about the idea of closure. The belief that one day everything that hurt you will make sense. That there will be a final conversation, a perfect explanation, or a moment where the confusion fades and your heart finally settles. But that moment rarely comes. Not because you didn't deserve it, not because you didn't try hard enough, but because closure, in the way we imagine it, doesn't really exist. What most people call closure is actually control. It's the hope that pain can be tied up neatly, that emotions can follow logic, that if someone just explains themselves clearly enough, the hurt will disappear. But emotions don't work like that. You can understand exactly why something ended and still feel broken by it. You can get the apology you thought you needed and still feel empty afterward. You can have one last conversation and walk away with even more questions than you started with. Because closure isn't something another person gives you. And that's the part no one tells you. We grow up believing that endings are supposed to feel complete. Movies end with clarity. Stories wrap everything up. People say things like, "At least you got closure." So when something ends without explanation, when someone leaves, changes, or simply disappears, it feels unfinished, like a sentence that was cut off halfway through. And your mind tries to finish it. You replay conversations. You analyze every detail. You wonder what you missed. You convince yourself that if you just understood why, you'd finally be okay. But understanding doesn't erase emotional attachment. Knowing the truth doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes, it just replaces confusion with a different kind of pain. Closure feels important because humans hate uncertainty. Your brain is wired to look for patterns, for reasons, for meaning. When something doesn't make sense, it keeps looping, trying to solve it like a problem. But some experiences aren't problems you can solve. They're things you have to carry. And that's uncomfortable. So instead of accepting that discomfort, we chase closure. We chase conversations that reopen wounds. We chase explanations from people who don't even understand themselves. We chase a version of the ending that makes us feel chosen, valued, or at peace. But even if we get it, it rarely lasts. Because the real issue was never the lack of answers. It was the difficulty of letting go. Some people won't apologize. Some people won't explain. Some people will move on like nothing happened, while you're left trying to process everything. And that silence can feel louder than any words. It can make you question your worth. It can make you rewrite the entire story in your head. It can make you feel like you were the only one who cared. But silence is not always a mystery. Sometimes it's an answer. Not a satisfying one. Not a kind one. But an answer nonetheless. It tells you what they were willing or unwilling to give. And as painful as that is, it's real. Closure is not a moment. It's not a conversation. It's not an apology. It's not something that arrives and suddenly makes everything okay. Closure is a decision. A quiet, often uncomfortable decision to stop asking questions that will never be answered in a way that satisfies you. It's choosing to stop waiting. Choosing to stop reopening the same wound just to see if it still hurts. Choosing to accept that some things will never feel fair, or complete, or fully understood. And still deciding to move forward. Letting go without closure feels unnatural at first. It feels like you're leaving something unfinished. Like you're giving up on understanding something that mattered deeply to you. But over time, you realize something important. You don't need the full story to decide how you move on. You don't need their explanation to validate your experience. You don't need their apology to begin healing, because healing was never dependent on them. It was always dependent on you. The moment things begin to change is not when you get answers. It's when you stop needing them, when you stop checking your phone for a message that may never come. Or when you stop replaying memories, trying to find a different ending. When you stop asking, why did this happen, and start asking, what do I do with this now? That shift is subtle, but it's powerful, because it moves you from waiting to living. Maybe closure isn't about understanding everything. Maybe it's about accepting that you won't. Maybe it's about making peace with the fact that some chapters end mid-sentence, not because they didn't matter, but because not everything is meant to be resolved in a way that feels good. Some things are meant to be felt, learned from, and eventually released. Some endings don't come with explanations, and maybe they're not supposed to. Because closure isn't something you find at the end of a conversation. It's something you create the moment you decide you deserve peace, even without the answers. If this felt like a wake-up call, subscribe for more